Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Dan Fletcher, and this is episode 15 of Let's Learn Ruby on Codecademy. Today we're going to pick up where we left off last time, which was blocks, procs, and lambdas. I said in the last video we were about halfway through, but I guess I lied, because it says here we're not even quite 1/3 yet. But I think we can still get through it probably under 20 minutes regardless. Real quick before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to Andy McKay. Thanks for commenting on my videos, dude. It really helped push me to get my butt in gear and start pushing these videos out again, so thank you. And that goes out for the rest of you commenting on these videos, asking for more. It all added up, and now I'm back at it again, so thanks, everyone. Anyway, now we got all the sentiments out of the way, let's jump in. Okay, so I believe we already passed. Oh, this is the beginning of this, so let's jump in. Proc syntax looks like is where we left off. So procs are easy to define. You just call proc.new and pass in the block you want to save. Here's how we create a proc called cube. Did we learn what procs were? Maybe not. Okay. So proc.new with this code block. So that cubes a number. We can then pass the proc to a method that would otherwise take a block. Oh, okay, so it's like a way of storing a block in a variable. And we don't have to rewrite the block over and over. So we got this example here, and it looks like you pass procs with the ampersand. So in this, our proc cubes our array, like they said above, and cubes it again. The collect and map methods do the exact same thing. The and is used to convert the cube proc into a block. Well, and if we actually... Oh no, I guess that is true. Each is the one that's different, because each doesn't return a new array, it just mutates the array. Interesting that they have two methods that do the same thing. The ampersand is used to convert the cube proc into a block. Since collect and map normally take a block, we'll do this anytime we pass a proc to a method that expects a block. Okay, so the floor method returns a float, which is a number with a decimal, down to the nearest integer. Write a proc called round down that will do this rounding. We've added the code to pass it to floats.collect. Okay, so round down is going to equal proc.new, and then the code block, which I guess is going to go n, and I guess we go n dot floor. Yep. Cool. So yeah, now we have a way of reusing these code blocks, which are kind of like to me, these just remind me of like callback functions in JavaScript, just a different syntax. And then it's sort of like higher order, I guess, if you want to call it that, because we can save it into a variable and then pass it as a parameter into a function. So why procs? Why bother saving our blocks as procs? This is sounding like a Dr. Seuss book. There are two main advantages. Procs are full-fledged objects, so they have all the powers and abilities of objects. Blocks do not. Unlike blocks, procs can be called over and over without rewriting them. This prevents you from having to retype the contents of your block every time you need to execute a particular bit of code. Okay. So here it looks like we want to replace this line with a proc that returns if something is over 4 feet. And then we're going to take this proc and replace this block. And so really all we have to do is cut that block and paste the logic here, and then copy this, paste, and paste, and that should pass. Unless I read something wrong. Did you create a proc called, oh yeah, right, you need proc.new. That should pass. Looks like there are heights over 4 feet in can ride 1. Oh, and we want to change this logic to less than, over 4 feet. So we want greater than, not greater than, or equal to. Oh, because I probably... Oh, it's bugging out here on me. There we go. Probably because we need the parentheses. No. Wrong number. I wish it would give me a line number where this error is coming from. I'm just going to undo that quick. Wrong number of arguments, 1 given. Do I have the syntax for this wrong? Maybe what was, oh, proc.new. Got it right. Proc.new. It's really annoying that I don't get the line number for what's causing this. I'm just kind of curious what puts over 4 feet. I'm gonna comment. How do I comment out a bunch of lines? And what? You'd think you could just do control slash, but that'll have to do. Okay, so the error is not anything to do with how we're assigning the proc. I wish you could just uncomment that with the keyboard. So it's here. I'm just going to reset because I forget what this originally looked like. So if select takes a code block, well, actually I'm curious if this runs in the first place if I uncomment, or rather if I comment out that and run it, it works. So I should be able to go new proc. Over 4 feet. Undefined method proc. Oh no, not new proc. It was proc.new. What? Oh. Because I'm sure a lot of you caught that. Yeah, we need the ampersand. So let's do that and run it. Cool. I'm just curious if we even need parentheses, or is that optional? It is optional. Cool. Okay, time to take off the training wheels. Okay. So they're just showing another example of proc. You're going to create your very own method that calls your very own proc. We'll do this in 2 steps. Use the example above as a syntax reminder. So let's create a method called greeter that takes no arguments and yields to a block. Create a proc called phrase, so proc.new, and we'll go like this, and it just puts hello there. Hello there, with a capital H. Pass this to greeter instead of a block. So greeter, and we'll go ampersand. Almost did it again. Undefined local variable or method yield. Well, it helps if you spell it right. Hello there. Cool. Whoops. Next. Call me maybe. Nice work. Calling a proc with a method isn't too tricky. However, there's an even easier way. Unlike blocks, we can call procs directly by using Ruby's call method. Check it out. Cool. Remember, there's always more than one way to do something in Ruby. So go ahead, create a proc called hi. So proc.new equals a block that puts hello. And then we're going to call it hi.call. Unexpected. What did I do there? Hi equals proc.new. Everything looks pretty good to me. Definitely thinks there's something wrong with this. Didn't I literally just make a proc exactly like that? Right here. So that worked. And that doesn't like this. What am I not seeing? I'm gonna copy it. I feel like there's like a weird something I missed there. What did I do? These look exactly the same. I don't understand. Oh, it's wow. We only need one assignment operator. Okay, let's rerun that, and we're good. Okay, symbols meet procs. Now that you're learning some of the more complex parts of the Ruby language, you can combine them to work some truly arcane magics. For instance, remember when we told you that you could pass a Ruby method name around with a symbol? Well, you can also convert symbols to procs using that handy little ampersand. Check it out. So we got an array of numbers as strings, and then we map those strings with a 2i that I'm guessing is a built-in symbol, and then that converts them to integers. Oh, no. Yeah, 2i is a built-in symbol. By mapping 2i over every element of strings, we turn each string into an integer. Okay, using the example in the instructions as a guide, use collect or map to create the strings array from the numbers array. Each element of strings array should be the string version of the corresponding element from the numbers array. Okay, so numbers array dot map, and we want the ampersand, and then is it just 2? I don't know. I feel like Ruby would probably just be 2str or just 2s. Cool. And then just to actually be able to see some output, let's print that to our console and run it. And we can see our array got turned into a bunch of string versions of those numbers. The Ruby Lambda, like Procs, Lambdas are objects. The similarities don't stop there. With the exception of a bit of syntax and a few behavioral quirks, Lambdas are identical to Procs. Check out the code in the editor. See the Lambda bit? I guess they're referencing this. Typing Lambda with the code block is just about the same as proc.new with a code block. In the example to the right, when we pass the Lambda to Lambda demo, the method calls the Lambda and executes its code. So yeah, we have a method, takes a Lambda, and we call the Lambda here. Cool. So that's how you could write your own like map or reduce method if you wanted to. Lambda syntax. Lambdas are defined using the following syntax. Lambda with a code block. Optionally, you can take your parameter and then the block of actual code. Lambdas are useful in the same situations in which you use a proc. We'll cover the differences between lambdas and procs in the next exercise. In the meantime, let's get a little practice in with lambda syntax. So we have an array of strings in the editor, but we want an array of symbols. On line 4, create a new variable called symbolize. In symbolize, store a lambda that takes one parameter. So we'll just say x. Takes one parameter and calls .toSym on that parameter. When we use symbolize with the collect method to convert, we then use symbolize with the collect method to convert the items to strings and symbols. We have, well, they already added that line here, so we should be able to run it. We'll see it pass, and then now you can see we have an array of symbols. Lambda versus procs. If you're thinking that procs and lambdas look super similar, that's because they are. There are only two main differences. First, a lambda checks the number of arguments passed to it, while a proc does not. This means that a lambda will throw an error if you pass it the wrong number of arguments, whereas a proc will ignore unexpected arguments and assign nil to any that are missing. Second, when a lambda returns, it passes control back to the calling method. When a proc returns, it does so immediately without going back to the calling method. To see how this works, take a look at the code in the editor. Our first method calls a proc, the second calls a lambda. Okay, so this one's just creating, they both create it on the fly. So he puts Batman, Iron Man, proc. So because proc, proc returns, it does so immediately without going back to the calling method. So this won't get printed to the console, but this will. Right, Batman will win in the proc version because as soon as we call proc, it kicks it out of the method. And Lambda Ironman will win because after calling a Lambda, it returns control back to the method before it returns. So now you try. Great work. You've written your own Lambda in scene, how to pass it to a method. Now it's time for you to write a Lambda and pass it to a method. If you think this will be a lot like what you've already done with Procs, you're exactly right. Just like with Procs, we'll need to put %, at the beginning of our Lambda name. We pass it to the method. Since this will convert the Lambda into the block the method expects, the symbolized Lambda was pretty cool. Let's riff on it with a Lambda that checks to see if each element in an array is a symbol. We can do this checking with the isa method, which returns true if an object is a type of object name and false otherwise. The word symbol has to be capitalized when you're doing. Okay, so create a Lambda called symbol filter, which takes a parameter. We'll call it x, and we want to do x.isa symbol. Create a new variable called symbols and store the result of my array.select, and we'll pass select our symbol filter, and then we'll put the symbols to the screen. Wrong number of arguments given, and I keep forgetting that damn ampersand. Whoops, don't want to do that. Ampersand. Control enter. And cool. So we converted, or sorry, rather we filtered the array down to only return those that are symbols. And we're about, let's hang on, I'm just going to quick check to see how many more we got to go through here. Because we're about 22 minutes, but I think we can get through the rest of this, keep it under 30. Okay, so quick review. All this talk of blocks, procs, and lambdas might have your head spinning. Let's take a minute to clarify exactly what each one is. Block is just a bit of code between do and or the curly braces. It's not an object on its own, but it can be passed to methods like each or select. So in that sense, blocks are kind of like anonymous functions in JavaScript. Is kind of like how I picture them. Proc is a save block we can use over and over. And to me, that's just similar to when you save a function to a variable in JavaScript. Although in JavaScript, they behave more like lambdas, not procs, because you still give control back to the calling method. And a lambda is just like a proc, only it cares about the number of arguments it gets and it returns. So it's calling method rather than returning immediately. Which is, yeah, again, closer to what you expect in JavaScript when you pass a function to a function. There are obviously lots of cases in which blocks, procs, and lambdas can do similar work, but the exact circumstances of your program will help you decide which one you want to use. Been around the block a few times. You're basically a Ruby block master at this point, so this should be pretty easy. The odds in n array is full of all sorts of objects, but we only want the integers. Okay, so we're going to create a new variable called ints, and we're going to store the result of odds and ends and select, which is kind of like just a filter with a block that takes a parameter, and we'll just call it x, and we're going to do x.isa, whoops, and we want to return true if it's an integer, and then we can put into the console, and it passed. I'm not sure what it's complaining about there. Doesn't really matter because Warning found equal and conditional should be equal. Yeah, I don't know. Run it again. Maybe it just goes away. Yeah. Okay. Creating a proc. Now let's tackle procs. First step, create one. Okay. And it's going to be called under 100. It's going to equal proc.new. And we'll handle passing. It checks if a number it's passed. So it's going to take a number as a parameter. And we'll call it n for number. We want to know if n is greater than 100. And then, so it just wants us to do this inline, so I'll do that for now. Under 100. Oh, we'll handle that in the next lesson, it says. Less than 100, not greater than. And I just wanted to check. This actually works the same. If you only have one parameter, you don't have to. Define it. Passing your proc to a method. Okay, so I'll be using the ages array, create a variable called youngsters, and we're going to set it equal to ages.select with our new proc, and don't forget that ampersand. And then we're just going to put youngsters to the screen. And undefined. Oh, it doesn't like it this time. Ah, darn. Maybe it's because last time I already got the check mark. That would have been elegant. Anyway, creating a lambda. Second verse, same as the first. Let's go ahead and make ourselves a lambda. We're going to call it first half equals lambda. Whoops. And it checks if a hash value. Checks if hash value is less than, that is earlier in the alphabet than M. No need to do anything with the crew hash yet. Make sure to use a capital M since we'll be checking capitalized names, because it will be checking a hash. Your lambda should include key value instead of just value, right? And so we want to check that the value, just curious if you can do this in Ruby. I guess you can, that's cool. Passing your lambda to a method. So now we're gonna make a method, or actually we're gonna make a variable. We'll just call it a2m, and it's gonna equal the crew, which is our hash, and we'll call select on our, and I remember the ampersand this time, first half. And then we'll just put a to m and run it. Nice. Sweet. All right. So yeah, that's the end of episode 15. Next episode, we're going to be looking at object-oriented programming. If you liked the video, don't forget to thumbs up, comment if you have any questions, and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Cheers.